Hey y'all, Melissa with you today, and today we're going to be talking about how to flat lock seams. I've done this project almost entirely with flat lock seams. These are created on your serger, and it's this decorative type of stitch that you've seen probably on activewear. It's used often with knits, and you can use it to sew seams, and you can also use it to create a hem on your serger. So I'm going to show you how I sewed up this pattern from my shop. This is the Rivage Raglan, and I'll put a link in the description if you're interested in this specific pattern. But today's not a sew along. This is just about how to do this type of stitching. So I will meet you right back at the camera and we'll talk about how to do this. So to flat lock a seam, first you have to decide which side do you want to be on the right side. If you want the stitch that looks kind of like a ladder, a bunch of parallel lines on the right side, then you're going to stitch with right sides together. If you want that ladder stitch on the inside or the wrong side of the garment, then you're going to stitch with the wrong sides together. So for this one, I'm going to stitch wrong sides together. And I'm going to put, this is the front of the shirt, and I'm going to put a sleeve, and I am putting these wrong sides together. All right, and then I'm going to stitch right along this seam, and then I'll show you how this magically turns into a stitch like I showed you in the introduction. So not every machine is exactly the same, and this is where I'm going to highly encourage you to refer to your manual or to Google your particular machine and look at the exact setup for your machine. I am going to be doing a 2-thread wide flat lock on my machine, which is one of a few different types of flat lock stitches that this machine can do. So to set it up for that, I've got this cone threaded through the upper looper track on top, and then it comes down, hooks through, and goes through the needle guide. And then the lower looper is threaded, but it's got this, see if you can see it. This is called a subsidiary looper that has to be engaged to do this kind of stitch on my machine. So once that is all threaded, then your manual should also give you guidance on which stitch. On my machine, it has automatic tension, so I need to set which stitch that I want. Whether you want to be stretching or gathering or neutral, you should pretty much always be neutral on this. And then your stitch length and width need to be set as well. And your manual should have guidelines for all of those things. So here is what the seam looks like straight off of the machine. And you can see that the tension looks a little bit loose, and that's by design, because then what you're supposed to do is go ahead and pull on the sides of that seam. And what that does is it's going to flatten the seam allowance out within, and then on the back side it creates this ladder of stitching. So as you pull and you loosen that stitching there, then you get on the other side a flat seam. And then you would continue sewing the garment, doing the same thing every place that you wanted a flat locked seam. Let's do a little comparison of the different types of flat lock stitching that my machine can do, at least. It's good to make samples before you do this so that you know what you want. This is the stitch I used on my garment. This is the wide 2-thread flat lock. This is the narrower version of the same stitch. So this is the narrow 2-thread flat lock. And then this one is a 3-thread flat lock, and you can see that extra thread down on that side, but then on the back it still looks like a ladder, just like the other 2 stitches. Okay, let me show you how to hem using a flatlock stitch. So what you're going to want to do is press your hem to the wrong side as normal, and then you want to flip your hem one more time, and you're going to stitch right along this edge. You're going to turn the knife off on your serger so that it doesn't cut that hem while it's stitching. So let's go over to the machine and I'll show you what this looks like. Okay, to flatlock the hem, first I've made sure to turn my knife off. And then I am going to stitch along this folded edge. So this is what the hem of the shirt looks like when you first take it off from the machine. And what I did was overlap the stitching and then tied off the edges for where I started and stopped. And then now what you do, same thing that you've done with the flat locking everywhere else, is you're going to go ahead and you're going to tug that stitching to create the ladder on the back side there, and then on the front side it starts flattening out that stitching and into a flat hem. And then when you're finished with that, this is what the right side of my hem looks like, and here is the wrong side of my hem.